your brain wants to gravitate towards how make this make sense, make this make sense. But the truth is, murder never makes sense. This is a psychopathic person who does something that breaks the norm of all of our consciousness. All of our minds are just struggling with the fact that this has happened. Why can somebody be killed in their bedroom? How does that make sense?
Welcome to the wonderful world of Strange Suspicion True Crime Series.
And hey, if you're a paid member of this channel, big shout out to you. Your support means absolutely everything. If you're not yet a paid member, please consider joining. Both of our membership levels are under $5 a month. And you'll get a spot in the end credits to show your love for our channel. Much love, and let's get to the bottom of this case, guys.
What is the address of the emergency?
What
is the rest of the address?
Oh, King's Road. Hey guys, I know I talk about myself a lot, but like, what would you guys do in my situation?
Yo, is it okay if I have a party? Like just 3 or 4 people at most.
1, 2, 3, 4. Almost as though they're walking in single file. Police say the murders happened between 3 and 4 in the morning.
The horrific crime that happened on November 13th, 2022 in Moscow, Idaho was beyond appalling. A quadruple homicide that has left families, friends, law enforcement, and the true crime community searching for answers. After 813 days of waiting as the sole suspect, Kohberger will finally stand trial on August 11th of this year. But as we dig deeper, it's clear that a lot of this just doesn't add up.
The defense has also claimed that they're going to present alternate perpetrators. Do you believe there is anyone else involved in the murder of your daughter and her housemates?
No, not at all.
Let's start with the timeline, because if we are to believe the official story, there are some serious inconsistencies. First off, let's talk about Dylan's phone activity. Poor Dylan, who we were told was frozen in fear in a frozen shock phase. Hold on, let's dial it back.
Oh, my bad.
Just over an hour before the murders.
Allegedly.
At 3 a.m., Dylan added a brand new contact to her phone. Now, maybe that's not strange to some people, but how many of us are adding a new phone contact into our phone at 3 a.m.? Maybe she hooked up with someone and took his number down. Maybe someone came over with someone they already knew to hang out and she made a new friend. Nobody knows but Dylan, and honestly, if you ask me, we may never get a true statement from this girl. But she sure didn't try and call 911 during what happened, and she may have saved a life or 2 or 4 if they could have gotten there in time. But it was too brutal. It must have been a crazy stroke of luck that Dylan's room was just feet from Xana and Ethan, and they were murdered.
We have a homicide.
Now, if we go with the official story that Dylan and Bethany were frozen in shock, then why does their phone activity suggest something very, very different? At 7:30 a.m., Bethany called her father. At 8 a.m., she called him once again. Then at 8:01 a.m., she calls a number marked home. Bethany then follows that up. At 8:02, she calls her mother. By 8:09 a.m., her father calls her back. At 8:41, Bethany takes some pictures. And then at 9:04, her mother texts her. This doesn't seem like the actions of someone completely unaware of what had just happened in her own house the night before.
Allegedly.
It looks more like someone figuring out what to do. Let's address a legal question here. In Idaho, Failing to report a murder you witnessed or were present for is a Class A misdemeanor, punishable by up to 1 year in jail and a $4,000 fine, unless the person believes reporting would put them at immediate risk of serious harm or death. Bethany and Dylan
allegedly
knew something and failed to report it. What does that mean? And if the parents were also aware, as well as students who got messages or Snapchats or Instagram DMs, would they also be an accessory to this crime? Now let's move on to Dylan. Between 8:05 a.m. and 10 a.m., Dylan was on Snapchat for 1 hour and 55 minutes actively sending and receiving messages, not frozen in fear. At 10 a.m., she switched to Instagram, scrolling and interacting for 30 minutes before casually visiting Indeed.com. What do people use Indeed for? Finding a job. Could she have been planning to leave town after the murders? Then from 10:30 a.m. to 10:45, she was back on Snapchat for 15 minutes. Between 10:56 and 11:29, she spent 33 more minutes on Snapchat and Instagram before texting Kaylee. At 11:35 a.m., she received a Yik Yak message. At 11:36 a.m., she got a DM on TikTok. And at 11:39 a.m., she was sending Snapchat messages. Dylan's father then texted her between 11:39 and 11:40 a.m. Now, while Dylan was actively engaging on multiple platforms for over 3 hours, what was Bethany doing?
allegedly nothing.
Until 11:49 a.m. when she suddenly called her boyfriend. At 11:50, Dylan called someone with the initials EA. At 11:51 a.m., Bethany's boyfriend texted her, and then between 11:54 and 11:55, he sent her 3 text messages in just 1 minute. At 11:54 to 11:57 a.m., Dylan was still on Instagram. Finally, at 11:58 a.m., nearly 8 hours after the murders
allegedly
happened, Bethany called 911.
One of the roommates has passed out.
Now, what doesn't add up about all of this is that we were told that Dylan and Bethany were paralyzed with fear, yet their phone records show hours of messaging, calling, and social media use. So the real question is, does any of this prove Bryan Kohberger is guilty? Or does it just suggest that we don't have the full story? Why would people be present for a murder and tell everyone but the police for around 8 hours?
8 hours later.
Word is, there was other DNA found. Now hold up. Why would anyone be worried about a bloody glove at a murder scene? Would a so-called serial killer really take one off mid-murder? And if the blood on it isn't from a victim, could it mean the killer got cut during a struggle? One thing's for sure. The blood on that glove did not belong to Bryan Kohberger. So who do you think dropped this glove? Was it a slip-up? Was it a signature? Or a challenge to the Moscow police? They're too clueless to catch it. Sound off in the comments. Tell me what you think. Of course, I know people are talking about Bryan buying a baklava-style hat on Amazon, like it's some kind of smoking gun.
Go to jail and give me that shit you was just smoking.
Let's be real. I myself own 2 ski masks. I bought them 2 years ago. You can even see one in one of our thumbnails. Does that make me serial killer? Hell nah, I'm a juggalette. And we're all about spreading love. Not paranoia, not hate, not death. Look.
Would you look at that?
Nothing weird about buying something to keep your head warm in the wintertime, right? But the way people are running with this, you'd think ordering a beanie would make you a suspect. We gotta stop jumping to conclusions based on half-baked narratives. It's easy to get caught up in misinformation, but let's take a second to step back and actually think. why are they so locked in on pinning this on Bryan? What's the bigger picture? Who benefits from this story going the way that it's going right now? Instead of just accepting what we're being told and what we're being fed, we should dig deeper. Let's talk about it. I'm not talking about argue, but drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's put our brains together and figure this out.
We gotta figure this out, guys.
And I'll say that on camera, and I'll tell everybody, you know, I was concerned, but I was wrong. They were right. And I'm okay with that.